Another question I often get from people, I just got it this morning at our real estate investor meetup, is should I get my real estate agent license to be a more savvy investor in real estate? And I think that that is up for debate. It is not necessary for everyone. In fact, it's probably not necessary for most people. To get your license in every state, there is definitely some work involved. You got to do a lot of studying, got to pay some fees, you got to go take a test, and you got to pass the state and the federal test. There's also continuing education on a regular basis that you have to do. There's costs involved with maintaining your license. And so it's not as easy as some people might think. So I think it's very important to realize like what's involved in keeping your license active. Now, it is nice if you want to save on commissions. That's often the reason I hear from people, hey, I should get my license and be a realtor so that I don't have to pay those commissions because they do add up. If you're doing a lot of flips every year or you're buying a lot of property and you want to save maybe 2 to 3%, on each side, depending on whether you're the listing agent or the buyer's agent. That's definitely a way to save some money. Now, please keep in mind that that's not always the percentage. There's been a lot of upheaval in our industry in the last year with those percentages, the commission, it is negotiable. Typically, what we've seen in the past is around 3% paid to the buyer's agent and 3% paid to the listing agent. But again, that's negotiable. So that may not be the amount, but it does add up. If you're looking at, say, $1 million property, and you're paying 6% total, that's 60 grand in commissions that is going to those agents. And so it is something to keep in mind, and it can save money, again, if you're doing a lot of commissions, but it's also a lot of work to keep your license active. You have to hang your license with a broker. You can't just have your own little shop that's you're the realtor for. You do have to be at, a brokerage, and there's fees involved typically with that brokerage. They might take a percentage of your commission. Every agent or every brokerage is different. So just keep that in mind. But there's costs associated with like your insurance and your MLS fees, your super access to be able to, open up those doors. There's regular deport fees on an annual basis. I mean, there's a lot involved, typically a couple $1,000s a year that we're having to spend to keep our license active. And so there's pros and cons. I think you really have to ask yourself, what is this going to benefit me? Is it worth my time? Because there is time involved. I was just working on my continuing education before this recording. And so it is time. And you have to ask yourself, is this going to be worth it for me to spend the time, spend the money? Am I really helping my business and my goals where I want to go by having a license? And from there, the answer may be yes, or the answer might be no. If the answer is no, I recommend finding an amazing realtor that understands the investment world. Most realtors, I love them all, don't understand investing. Like they're not looking at it the same way. They're looking at a primary home. That's typically what they're dealing with. And so a realtor that understands investing is totally different. So you have to ask a lot of questions when you're finding that person to work with, that partner that's going to really help you. They need to understand your world. And I think it's great when they do have some rentals of their own. So they're more familiar with, looking at the numbers and understanding, is this going to be a good investment for you as their client? I hope this helps. Feel free to reach out with questions.